Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on our week 2 webinar for our ADL636. Our agenda for tonight is we'll go over a couple of just general class things. I went over them in the week 1 webinar, so I'll do them very quickly in this one, just in case you've seen them both. Then we'll go over our week 2 assignments, and depending on if this is depending on which class this is, we'll talk about this one on the bottom, but I will go over that. If I'm doing an independent study, if you're involved in an independent study, sometimes it's a little bit different. So I will point those things out as we go through this. So first off, just general class things. When will grades be posted? I post grades the Tuesday or after the week after the class ends. So if the class ends on Saturday, then that following Tuesday or sometime soon after that, I will post grades. That just means that any assignments need to make sure those are in so that I can post grades as promptly as possible. All grades are posted at the same time, so if we're waiting for one student, everybody's kind of waiting for that one student, so please do your best to be prompt about that. But if something does happen, there's an emergency of some type or whatever, then let me know and we can discuss if you think you need just a little bit more time to wrap things up. Discussion boards, try to do these earlier in the week. They make more sense when they're done earlier in the week, as you're going through the material. And it does make it easier for people to respond to one another. If you can label the parts of your responses, if the response requires a couple different, 2 or 3 different topics within your response, if you could label those, especially if something's outlined as being worth points, that helps me just to make sure I see everything and I grade everything appropriately. I appreciate that. If you're involved in an independent study, then responding to 2 other students is obviously going to be a little bit different, so we will deal with that on a case-by-case basis. So I will contact you or post things on the class website to let you know how that's going to work. I do have a website that has some supplemental material, so you can check that out by going to this URL right here. Let's see. Again, if you're involved in an independent study, I'll be posting week by week what's going to be, how the webinars are going to be completed. So, and also for even for classes that are not independent studies, sometimes we'll bounce around. I'll do some pre-recording, we'll do some live webinars, things like that. So I'll just keep you up to date as the class goes on and try to give you plenty of warning to be ready for that. Rubrics, always check those rubrics to make sure you don't miss points, because if you miss something that's in the rubric and it's not in your project or your assignment, then you can't get points for it. So make sure you check those rubrics. Okay, so this week we're going over assessment tools. So a couple things you want to be thinking about is how to use assessment tools to evaluate student learning. That's obviously one of the main things that we want to be doing with those assessment tools is figuring out how the students are doing in our class, whether or not they're getting the material, things like that. What technology tools are used for assessment? So there's a variety of technology out there that can be used for assessments. You might want to just start kind of rolling around in that and see what maybe you use or you've heard of other people using. What technology tools do students use to demonstrate understanding? So again, there's a variety of things out there, so you might want to just be thinking about how do students demonstrate understanding? Do they do a Google slideshow? Do they do, Flipgrid or something like that? And how can rubrics be designed to effectively assess learning? So how do we use rubrics to really find out how the students are learning? Don't forget about those class readings. There's lots of information in the class website, so make sure you go through that information carefully because there's a lot of good information in there. The assignments for the week, let's go ahead and jump in there. And for this week, you're going to be developing a plan for assessment. There is a template involved in that, so I'll go ahead and open up that template in just a minute here. But you're going to want to make sure you download that template and fill out that exact template when you're making your lesson plan. So it's a lesson of your choice, but you want to make sure you use that template. Let me see if I can find that template here real quickly. Okay, so here's that template. So you're going to want to make sure you download the template right from the class website, and then just fill out that template. Just whatever information is in there, fill that out with your lesson plan. All right, let's go ahead and go back here. The second assignment is going to be developing a rubric. So you're going to create your own rubric to assess the lesson plan that you just created, obviously. So you're going to be developing your own rubric, creating your own rubric. I would recommend using one of the tools on the class website. Rubistar is one of those, and there are some other ones there, so I just use one of those. They make it easier. But if you want to create your own, then you are welcome to do that as well. Okay, next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do a reflection on this webinar that's going on right now, or a live webinar, whichever one is happening. Sometimes in classes I will do a live webinar so we can have a live discussion, but I'll also have a condensed version of the webinar here so you can refer back to it and look over the assignments and things like that a little bit more quickly, or get some of those hints a little bit more quickly. So if we have a live webinar where we're meeting live, then you're going to do a reflection on that, or you're doing a reflection just on this pre-recorded webinar, whichever one. Let's see. So there are some guidelines about how to do a reflection there. Same guidelines, I believe, as the last the week 1 webinar reflection. And then you don't want to forget about that assignment that starts in week 3, where you're going to be interviewing someone like at the district office level. So just kind of giving you another heads up on that one, so you can be contacting that person as soon as possible, so it doesn't take you, more time than it needs to. So remember, for that interview, you're going to be meeting with someone that is an expert in the field of institutional data evaluation or assessment. So it's going to be someone that is probably at your district office, but it can be someone else. And then you're going to be asking them these questions right here. Okay, and that's about it. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and contact me, and I'd be happy to help. Thanks very much. Have a great week.